Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Anyhow, folks, welcome aboard. Michael Rodnin, AVQ, Dimitri OG, ¿Cómo estás, familia? ¿Cómo estás? Mi familia favorita. Anyhow, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. There are several things that I want to talk about. But first of all, I want us to stop getting in. Donald Trump continues to throw all these things out. We're not going to have an election. We're going to have an election, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to hear it because the truth of the matter is he doesn't have the power unless he somehow finds a way to overthrow the government to do that. It's not in his purview to change the election or not. So we need to stop talking about it too much. I just want to say one thing about it before I get into the program, and the reason I want to talk about it is Greg Palast sent out his newsletter, and it said the secret purpose of Trump's threat to delay the vote. The real purpose of the threat by our tweet-in-chief to delay the election is to lay the groundwork for massive challenges of the mail-in ballots. Officially, 1,913,669 369 ballots were challenged and thrown away in 2016. That's how Trump stole the last election and how he will steal 2020. So the idea is he just wants to create enough chaos out there. Take a look, go to gregpalast.com. He just wants to create enough chaos out there so that with that chaos, people start to think, oh, just maybe, we need to fear, and it's not going to be a fair election, and it does two things to suppress our vote, meaning the people that are going to vote against Donald Trump. That's not going to happen. Right now, the people are souring so badly, and I cannot believe the incompetence of the right. Because I don't know if these guys are, thank you very much for sharing. And please, folks, anybody who is on the show right now, I ask you so kindly to share right now before we get too far into the show. Please share the show so others can see, so others can participate, etc., etc., etc. But we're going to go into that stuff about the election as far as not that Donald Trump is going to stop the election or anything like that. That's junk. But about the different things that I think these guys are nuts about with the stimulus and that kind of stuff. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get started with the show. Title of the show today is Republicans Want the Virus That Is Trump Gone. COVID-19, masks, ineptitude, and stimulus. Hey, that calling Trump a virus wasn't me. And it's going to be the person you least expect to say that. But anyhow, as Trump craters in the poll, real Republicans are growing spines. But the COVID mask ineptitude continues. What about the stimulus? Republicans no longer mind slamming the president on cable news anymore. Donald Trump's destruction of the Republican Party and the U.S. is starting, along with his faltering poll numbers, may actually give some strength to his detractors. It is about time, don't you think? Some Republicans are speaking up. They're speaking up. Just vote early. I love that, Bruce. Just vote early. And you know what? They're even here in Texas, I think they're opening the polls a week earlier, and you can actually go vote in person. You don't have to vote by mail as long as it's not occurring on the same day. Now, there are certain states where I think in-person voting is all on one day. I don't remember what states those are, but for states that have early voting, where you get 3 weeks to vote, 4 weeks to vote, 5 weeks to vote, we cannot use, even though they're trying to suppress the vote, as soon as that line opened, we should be there. So that if there's a problem with our cards, Third, because they're open, some of them are open more than 30 days before the election. So if there's a problem with our voter registration, we can get all of those things solved. We got to get with the program. We can't, they depend on us being irresponsible and lazy, and that's the way they think they can win the vote, given that they can't do certain things that they could back in the past. Anyhow, Joyanne Reed deconstructs the total complicity of the American system in electing Donald Trump. I want you guys to see this video. This one that Joyanne Reed did on her new show called The Read Out was like tops. And then I want to tell you a little story about what happened with Alec and me today. When I was supposed to be interviewing somebody from Alec today, and it was canceled at the last minute, and I kind of want to explain to you what happened there, because I think it's important, but not to worry. I have the document that I really wanted to prune the guy about. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get started with Joyanne Reed and her take on Donald Trump. I think it's important. Check this out. Joyanne Reed is always hard-hitting. That is why her transition to primetime, I think it is great, because she gives that extra spunk, that extra hit that's needed. I want you to listen to this, and then let's take it on the other side.
There is complicity across the board in this country for Donald Trump being allowed to even be in a position to be president. He has gotten away with it all. The banks knew that he wasn't going to pay them back, but they went along with the fiction because they thought, well, if we just stick with him, maybe we'll get our money back. You had Mark Burnett play along with this fiction. It was a joke that Donald Trump was just the only one not in on this idea that he was a successful businessman. Everyone around him in the business world that was a developer knew he was not. It's all been a fraud. And the media and everyone that's played into the fraud by playing his rallies, by ignoring his racism, by calling it racially charged instead of racist, and giving him a break and saying, we'll just play one more rally. We'll give him a break. We'll say, well, he's president, so let's respect the office and treat him like he's president. Donald Trump has gotten away with this his whole life, and this is why he's incompetent, because no one has ever said, you know what, Donald Trump, you actually have to perform. You actually have to be good at this in order for you to earn these positions. He's always gotten it for nothing. The father gave it to him. The family gave it to him. The media's given it to him. Enough. That is why Donald Trump is a failure as a president.
And a good percentage of the country gave it to him. In other words, he was not only born with the silver spoon in his mouth, but he was born with the given attribute that somehow the people at large would give him somehow the opportunity to serve. But I tell you, it is important for us to see exactly why and how we got Donald Trump. We've been talking about the media giving him a free press for a long time, but it wasn't only the media. It was the system in general. But there's one thing that I think in the long run we are going to have to answer. And the question is, why Donald Trump? There are a lot of other charlatans out there. The one that got that break that made him president was Donald Trump. And that is so true. Now, you know, last night as I was writing my newsletter, right, this thing just hit me, because I kept on saying, how are we where we are today? I mean, let's just think if we had a marginally competent president when this pandemic occurred. That marginally competent president would have immediately said, wow, I need to call in the reinforcements. I need to call in science. I need to call in all these people to prevent this virus from spreading. So I wrote last night, I think I probably had some grammatical errors in there. I said, I am writing my newsletter right now, and this thought just came to me. It's on my wall on Facebook. And it said this: Trump has benefited from maximal heights of privilege. And because he is one on steroids, the outcomes are that massive, meaning what he has done to America, it has really terrorized America economically. So his lies at the beginning went mostly unchallenged. And the unchallenging of those lies are why we are where we are today. That in itself allowed the progressive spread, because there was no real change, no real challenge to what he had to say. Contrast that with how President Obama handled H1N1 and Ebola. I recall interrogations and second guessing. Remember those days. Remember the days when Obama was confronted with H1N1. it went into action. The CDC went into action. They went and got the genome done. They sent that out. It was quick. And yes, they prevented the spread by isolation and all the things that we're asking people to do right now. The same thing occurred when Ebola. Ebola, we didn't just stay here in the United States. For Ebola, we went to the hot spots. We sent the U.S. military. We sent the U.S. science into the places in Africa where we actually had the thing, because we knew that if it wasn't taken care of over there, there's a good chance with commerce, with people traveling, that the infection would definitely be over here in the United States and throughout Europe. So what did we do? We didn't only try to isolate it here in the United States, but we fought it in the lands where it was most hot. Trump was only Barack Obama was second guess on H1N1 on Ebola. I recall interrogations and second guessing. Trump was only second guess sufficiently when the virus was already in an uncontrollable spreading state. That is when they got serious about it. And Trump didn't get serious about it. That is when everybody else got serious about it. The reality is privileged leaders get some of the privileged and many of the unprivileged kill. The 150,000 people that are dead right now include a small fraction of the privileged and a large portion of the unprivileged. Let's go ahead and add somebody like Brother Herman Cain as one of the privileged that died. But he died not because of the work he had to do or anything. He simply died on his stupidity. Now, the second guess too late is absolutely true, but the reason why now we have to not second guess, we have to put out what occurred actually, because the expectation is by letting folks know the reason why the pandemic got this bad is because, it's because. It wasn't because the pandemic occurs like that. It was man that handled it incorrectly. Anyhow, that someone devoid of intellect, violent towards women and POCs, lies uncontrollably, and an uncaring person devoid of morals can become the president of the United States, let alone the self-ascribed leader of the world, should show once and for all that privilege should be rid of. Privilege should not be what gives you a position. Yes, it is ingrained, so we must be intentional in getting rid of privilege. I got to have some typos in there that I just noticed now that I'm reading it. But we have to get rid of privilege because, again, privilege is it's diametrically opposed to meritocracy. And like I said, we have never, ever in America been a meritocracy. Meritorious people have been selected to the club, but we were not one country that said, if you're meritorious and you that you will be successful. We were never that country. We have a lot of meritorious people running around the place, right? But only those that are selected are the ones that actually get the action, that actually get the spoils. Anyhow, the president is starting to get his clock cleaned by his friends. And I don't know how much he likes that, but he's getting his clock cleaned by his friends. I want you to check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. Anthony Scaramucci, that communications director that lasted, I don't remember how many hours, maybe a few days, but I think it was just a few hours. Well, he still maintained his support for Trump for a long time till recently. He just decided he couldn't take the crazy wagon anymore. Listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
You eventually walked away from him. John Kelly's walked away from him. Jim Mattis has walked away from him. Is this one of those moments where more are going to walk away from him?
Well, we had, in 1974, we had warriors like Senator Dole that saw their friends die for the Constitution and for our freedom. We have a lot of vets in the Congress. We have a lot of vets that are Republicans that are serving. I would just like everybody in our party, the Republican Party, to think about their patriotism over the partisanship and to not be intimidated by the president. Okay, the great thing about our system, it's really the people that are ruling the country. These people are supposed to be put there to serve. I know his Twitter feed can be intimidating. I've been tweeted at. I get all that. But it's not going to careen your career. What will help your career right now is to speak truth to power to the American people. He really should resign. He's incapable of handling what's going on. Or he should do what LBJ did in March of 1968, say, okay, I'm not going to stand in November for this election. He just does not have the skill set to handle this crisis. If you look at the intersection of the crisis and the president's communication skills, they're just way off, Chuck. And a very smart person that loved the country over the party would look to him and say, hey, it's time to go now. Pack up.
It's time to go now. Pack up. Listen to what Anthony had to say, and I wish more Republicans would take this into account. Many of them are scared of his Twitter feed. Many of them are scared that if and say something negative about him, that he'll go on the attack. I think it is important for them to note one thing. In the future, having fought back against Donald Trump is going to be a feather in your cap because it's going to prove that you were on the right side of history. Having been a Donald Trump sycophant, what it's going to do, it's going to permanently maim you and relegate you to some part of history that is not going to be kind to you, neither in real life or after your demise. Now, let me tell you something, folks. I am pretty sure that this next one that I'm going to play is how a lot of what we call the moderate Republicans are going to feel. And this is why, barring something that is unknown, I think the country is, first of all, going to be in so much trouble by election day that people are going to be looking for a huge change. And when you see somebody like this other person that I'm going to play mañana, or rather not mañana, in a little bit, you're going to see why I am pretty much convinced that this is not going to be just a win for Biden, but it has to be a blowout for Biden. And like George Will said in what I played you guys a couple weeks ago, I think George Will said by 10 o'clock Central Time, which is 11 o'clock Eastern Time, he said a president would have been declared. And the reason he said 11 o'clock is just check out the parts of the states that will be closed when you go into time zones. It'll be closed. And the reason why is going to be simple. We are in trouble. And that what the president is talking about when you hear him speak compared to the reality of the economy, even the sycophants are going to realize it because it's going to be their pocketbooks as well. Yeah, it starts at the low end. But eventually it hits them as they continue to have to draw from their 401ks, etc. It's going to be seen. But check this one out. Anyone remembers Mitt Romney's campaign strategist, Stuart Stevens? I want you to listen to this, and then let's take it on the other side.
It's so clear reading your book, Stuart, that you are a man without a party. You know, you're not somebody who is some closet Democrat. You have philosophical differences with some liberal ideology. You can see it in your book. What do you do if the Republican Party decides not to fully get rid of the Trump virus?
I've thought about that a lot, and what I'm going to do is support Democrats, because I think really, to me, that's the only honest choice. We're either going to be run by Democrats or Republicans in this country. Decades pointing out flaws in the Democratic Party. I don't think it's perfect. But right now, I think that it still believes in some concept of what it is to be an American that I just find so troubling absent in the Republican Party's acceptance of Donald Trump. And I think that you have to take a side. And if the Republican Party is the Trump party, I'll support Democrats. And I'll do it because I think it's the better choice and it's the right choice, not because I think that they're perfect.
Joe Biden's got a line that always makes me laugh. You're not running against the Almighty, you're running against the alternative. It sounds like you've looked at the alternative and you've made a decision.
I don't know if you guys realize what Chuck did there. Chuck actually said the Trump virus. He called Trump a virus in the Republican Party. Wow, shocking. But anyhow, as it turns out, this guy believes that There is no going back now. He has to support something other than the Republican Party, which has become nothing more than Trump's party. This guy's bold for going out and saying that, just like folks at the Lincoln Project and these other things. I think we are going to have an party and institutional shakeup in this year. This is going to be an interesting change. Mark my words. Mark my words. This is going to be an interesting change. Look, Lee Grant. The novel Wuhan coronavirus is from China, not from Trump. First of all, if you're making that statement based on what Chuck Todd said, when Chuck Todd called it, mentioned the Trump virus, he wasn't talking about the coronavirus. He was talking about Trump being a virus within the Republican Party. How does a virus work? It infects the cells, and after it infects the cells, it forces those cells to replicate itself. So in other words, Donald Trump went into the Republican Party, a conservative party, and infected the party in such a manner that we started to get a whole bunch of Donald Trumps. He replicated himself. There are people talking like Donald Trump right now. And, you know, somebody on Periscope said, what did he say? Periscope said, Trump is a Democrat. Well, here is it, JB, Trump is not a Democrat. Trump is nothing. But Trump had some Democratic proclivities, some Republican proclivities. For the money part, Republican proclivities. For the kind of a personal kind of stuff, Democratic proclivities. For his racism, conservative proclivities. And I'm not calling conservatives racist. I'm just saying that because right now the Associated Party that allows people like the white supremacists to be in their realms, the militias to be in their realms right now, it's a conservative party that allows that. You know, you won't see these militias and you won't see the KKK or the white supremacists residing on the progressive side. Now, I am not by any means saying that progressives are so much less racist or less prejudiced or less homophobic than the Republicans, because the truth of the matter is they're not. What the left is they know that the policy and they know that it's wrong. All right, and even if they're executing these things personally, they know institutionally it's wrong, and they try to solve the problem institutionally. And the reason I want to get off on a tangent here, because this is how I make my conversation a lot of times with conservatives, right? And I think it's important. People think that being progressive inherently make you enlightened, non-prejudiced, and all these good factors, right? And being conservative somehow makes you more racist and otherwise, okay? Here's the deal. What I found, and I've been in both arenas. I go to Republican events and I go to Democratic events. I go to both of them. And I want to be very honest with you. I do not find much difference in the levels of racism in any of these particular things that I go to. I'm not talking about going to some Tea Party thing or whatever where they overtly have a monkey and they try to equate black folk. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you're going to sensible organizations, where you're having a meeting, where you're discussing issues, etc., which we do a lot before this virus was around in conferences. What I found is that the reality is we have it on both sides, and when we acknowledge that, we are more honest and we can have a much better discussion. Here's the thing, though. Progressives want to do something about it in law. In other words, they want to say, let's make sure that the law does not discriminate. And conservatives want to say laissez-faire, independence, individualism. If somebody wants to not serve you, they should have that right. You know, so we get into those things. So I don't want anybody to think that all our hands are clean here, or that somehow these conservatives are so bad. No. We're all good. We're all bad. We all have our hell. I've given my story already. Long before, now this is decades ago, because mostly of where I come from, I was a homophobe. That was my problem, and I fixed that. And I nipped that in the butt, and I'm not looking for a pat on the back, because it was my damn stupid way I grew up with the wrong things in my head. And when I came over here and learned better, I was intentional on making sure that I was no longer a homophobe, and that not only was I no longer a homophobe, but that I would do everything in my power to atone. And what does atone mean? You work above and beyond for the stupid person you were, who I was. And therefore, I make sure that I am supported. And it's not just from the head now. It started out just being from the head, but now it's from the head y el corazón, and the heart. But you have to get to that place in life, right? You have to get to that place. And that is where, yes, right, Brigitte, it's a teaching like racism. Exactly, racism is thought. A lot of people say, oh, well, people, our natural selection forces us to, people that look different than us, somehow our natural selection says we automatically have an affront to that person. That may have had some value in the past, where people lived completely differently, right? But now that we live among each other and we know all these science stuff and whatever, it is really taught. If you doubt it, go to an elementary school, or go to a preschool, all that kind of stuff. When you go there, what you see really quickly is that all these kids, everything is an attribute, and just that, nothing more. And a fat person is just an attribute. A black person is just an attribute. A white person is just an attribute. Somebody with a big nose is just an attribute. Somebody with a small lip is just an attribute. It's just a human attribute. We all speak, we all communicate, we all do that kind of stuff. We all bleed red. We all can exchange organs. So I mean, when you start, intelligence preclude that stuff that a lot of folks like to talk about. Oh, it's sort of an instinct that comes back from our old days. Well, no, it's learned. It's learned. I learned how to be a butthole, and that's what I had to fix on my own. So, no, it's learned. My culture, my triple culture, I call it the tripleta. Caribbean, Latino, and Black. The tripleta, man. And you excise that out of your system. Anyway, that was a tangent. Sorry for that. That was a tangent. Anyhow. Michael Steele came on TV yesterday and had one of a piece that I loved, because right now our thing is mask. And a lot of folks on the right are resisting wearing masks. But you know what? Michael Steele said, to hell with it. I'm gonna tell my peeps the way it is. I'm gonna tell my peeps the way it is. And I was proud of Michael Steele, former head of the Republican Party. Here we go. As we all know, Herman Cain recently died. And now there are a whole lot of Republicans that are saying, we don't believe that he died from the coronavirus, or how comes Democrats are not dying as much from the coronavirus as Republicans? It's crazy. But Michael Steele, the former chairman of the GOP, I love what he had to say with Joy-Ann Reid. Check this out.
Now that he has passed, there are people on the Republican side, on the MAGA side, who are still refusing to accept that it is coronavirus, that is the reason that he has died. Angela Stanton King, who is running for John Lewis's seat, she's running in John Lewis's district in Georgia, tweeted this today. All the celebrities and Democrats catch COVID and magically heal, but Herman Cain is dead. I swear, I hate it here. I was right there with him. We were perfectly fine. This is a war. What does that mean? And if she hates it here, does she mean in Georgia, in the district?
I don't know what the hell that means. I don't have, that makes no sense. We're at war. Look, Herman Cain was a buddy of mine. I appreciated every moment I got to spend with him, and my heart goes out to him and his family for this loss. The reality of it is, for those who don't think this is serious, that those who think that this is some made up China virus that was imported into the country, live in that bubble, and you will die in that bubble. And that's all that can be said. Folks, we cannot stop you from being stupid. We've put the information out there. We've tried to educate and inform. We've got the best and the brightest scientists in the country that have been summarily dismissed by this administration, and particularly this president. In fact, you know what the realities are because you have family members and friends who've been sick and dying since this thing began. So I can't help your stupidity at this point. That's your risk. It won't be mine. So my heart goes out to the fallen who've not listened. But at the same time, for those who are, take care, wear the damn mask.
Wear the damn mask. Let me just say one thing here. And this is something that I think we are missing. Right now, we have been leveling all the attacks on Donald Trump. Donald Trump is one person, and Donald Trump is going to eventually leave. And if we continue to do that, those sycophants that he has working for him right now, they will think that when Donald Trump is gone, they are absolved of the guilt that he has imposed, more than likely believing that when he's gone, they are clean. We have to start calling out those people who are his sycophants, those people who are passing on the false statements, the lies, the conspiracy theories and all those things, because what we have to make them know, those sycophants right now, that after Donald Trump, they will be unemployable because nobody will want to have that tarnish. Nobody is going to want to have that stench on them. And I think if we start going after those as well, then we will probably get somewhere. Then we'll probably get somewhere. You know, when I was talking about that article, that little bleep that I wrote this morning, actually it was about 1 something this morning, I think it was, about Donald Trump and privilege and that kind of stuff. I just wrote that, and it was amazing because then I check my daily Kos every morning, and there's this article that came up, says white privilege and the Stanford's marshmallow study. I know in a minute you're going to get that link from Brother Rudnin, because Brother Rudnin is faster than any one of us here in finding these links. But anyhow, and I said after I wrote that, and I said I was going to touch on this on the show today because I think it's important, because even whether you consider yourself prejudiced or not, whether you consider yourself that you believe that there's something called white privilege or not, this is a good, this thing is a good study to look at, because it went something to effect like this. I put a whole lot of people in a room. I give them a choice of a marshmallow, of a pretzel. Which one do you want? Which thing do you want? And you choose what is your best food that you want. And then they went ahead and said, okay, he's not home today. No wonder we don't have all those links from Brother Rudnin. Okay, no problem, Rudnin, no problem. No. I wasn't asking you to find it. What I was saying is, you're always so quick. I was actually commending you, brother. But anyhow, so check this out. So you get the choice of 2 foods, right? And you select the one that you want. And then the rest of the experiment says, if you wait a while, you can have 2 of whatever you suggested or you asked for. But if you just wait indefinitely, I'm going out of the room and wait till I come back or whatever. But if you want to leave, you can leave with the one that you have right now. And what happened is some of the people left, or something. I'm just giving you sort of the idea behind the experiment. Some people left and just took that one immediate gratification. Some waited, and the ones who waited got the 2, right? So the idea being that they said that if they followed those same people along the road, it ended up that the people who waited for delayed gratification in life, in SAT scores, and all these things, they did better. So that also had something to do with that person's moral character, right? In other words, I don't want to know if it's moral as a word to do, whether that person would go ahead and be whatever. But check this out, though. This is an interesting thing. This person who wrote the article had a great comeback. And the comeback is as follows. You would have to have known the history of that person who took that marshmallow right away and walked. And that is how they express privilege. In other words, if you are from a poor community who have always, and folks have always lied to you about coming back and giving you something later on or waiting this time around or whatever, you are going to live in the immediacy of now and take that thing. That has nothing to do with your inherent morality or your inherent patience or your inherent responsibility. It has to do with how you were culturized. If you are used to a system that you can't trust and you have something immediately, you're not going to trust that that person is going to come back to give you too. So you leave right away. In fact, in life, you could say that that would have been the most pragmatic thing to do, because instead of sitting down there waiting for somebody to give you the next thing, you could have said, I'm going to take what I have now so I can go work for making it again. So what it showed with these studies, right, is these studies are very, very biased. And sometimes you don't immediately see the bias, right? It's like the IQ test. You know, if you get an IQ test and you put a whole lot of things, you put a teacup, a saucer, a kettle, and something else there, and you ask somebody from a culture that doesn't use teacups and saucers together, and you're saying what things go together, and they put those things together, but the person who is from another world, another country, another thing, doesn't get it. They may think teapot and cup, because the teapot is used to pour in the cup, while somebody who sees a teacup and a saucer says teacup goes on saucer. So the biases within these things is also a demonstration of what people would call types of privilege that we have. I mean, it's much deeper than that, of course, and it goes a lot more than what I'm saying. But whenever you have all these people making these comments as to why things are the way they are, look at how those people are doing, or look at what they do, or look at what they can't do, or look at the difference in scores. It is so important for you to actually understand that these tests are generally always, these tests that supposedly test intelligence and otherwise, are always biased. And exactly, that's another thing. In England, they use the saucer to pour the tea on to give it more surface area to cool and then drink. So there's a whole lot of things like that. Anyhow, I told you guys I had a story to tell you, and I have about a few minutes to tell you the story before we have to go into me reading all the things you guys put out there. This morning, I get email from publicists who, somebody wants to talk about a particular issue or whatever all the time. Well, today I got one. I got another one. I get them. Actually, I get several of them every day. But today I got this one from a publicist who said this particular. Let me tell you why they do this. What they want to do is they want to seed. People want to seed the internet with a lot of information, so that if they come on my show, if they go on TYT and they go on all these other shows, and they start doing search engine searches, if they're in a whole lot of these different shows, it gives them ranking, right? So, I mean, it's all sort of a self-feeding mutuality that goes on. They give you good content, because a lot of the things that they talk about you want to hear about. But at the same time, they improve their score on the internet. Okay, let's see. Still waiting for a response to Mark Trump's evaluation of Trump. Oh, to the. Let me see. What did you ask? I'll answer that, but I haven't read the book. I'm not going to read the book, and I'll tell you why in a minute, Bridge. But let me go ahead and finish the story, and then I'll come back to you. Para ver. Okay. So I get this message saying, hey, this guy wants to talk about why the federal government should not give money to the states. In other words, don't give any money to the states. We are in a depression, right? And the states are out of money. And unlike the federal government, the states cannot run a deficit. States cannot run a deficit. So therefore, what happens? they want to start creating a movement to not give states the money. We'll talk about why they may want to do that, but we'll talk about that later. So I get this message that said, hey, he wants to talk. And I said, sure. And, it's not only me they send it to. They send it to a lot of folks that do what we do here. So I immediately responded. I said, hey, I'd like to talk to this person right now. And they said, oh, okay. It was a quick turnaround. And they said, okay, he's at the dentist right now, but he can come on in about 45 minutes. Actually, it was about an hour. He can come on. It was 45 minutes to an hour. I said, great. I'll be ready for the interview. So I get another, this time I got a call, and they said, hey, there's an emergency at the dental office. We can't really do it today, but would you like to talk with somebody about the voter something? And it wasn't voter suppression. It was the opposite, because I started to realize that this was a right-wing publicist. And then I said, no, the only thing I want to talk right now is giving money to the states from the federal government. And they said, okay, we'll see. Didn't get a response. I sent them an email and said, hey, I can't get it onto the show today, but I can get it on tomorrow. No response. In effect, I understood what happened. More than likely, they realized that we were a liberal tank. And I think they said, well, I don't know if we want it here. Because when I read the ALEC report, this is it I have on the screen right now. These guys are nuts. These guys are nuts. And I want to show you the deception that they use. They said ALEC came up with this paper, and it is signed by a ton of Congress people. And I want you to notice something special about all these Congress people that they have signed it. Notice that none of them that you see here, they put what party they're from. Do you wonder why? And I'm looking at all these Congress people to see if I can find any Democrats or progressives in their midst. And by gosh, even Texas, that has a huge delegation, only 4 people signed it, but over 200 people signed this thing, saying, we don't want ALEC. Remember what ALEC stands for? That is the Legislative Council, right? It stands for the American Legislative Exchange Council. This is a group of business people and supposedly politicians that write the laws, and then they shop these laws to the 50 states. So they try to get these laws that are symmetric actually not symmetric, exactly equal in 50 states. So they may say, let's create a law on how we handle, let's say, this particular chemical in water. And they'll get all their business people together, and they'll come up with a law. And they'll take that law and shop it around to every single state. So this that you see here about states not wanting, they don't need to get federal bailout. They try to convince the states that if the federal government is giving you a bailout, it comes with attachments. Of course it comes with attachments. It comes with you having to spend that money fairly. It comes with you not being able to take that money and work on your pet project. It comes with a lot of those things. But they don't want that, because they know if the states start taking money from the federal government, there are a lot of things that ALEC would write on a state level that they don't want to implement, or they don't want implemented. By that token, they don't want to give the money in a state. So now we know that the states don't have any money. So how do they mitigate their statements with the states having no money? They said, not because the state is not collecting the amount of taxes needed to survive, does it mean the state doesn't have any money. The state has assets all over the place that they can use to cover their bills. Huh? Come on now. Come on now. So they want, in effect, they want the states to sell their butts, in effect, to the private sector. I wonder why. Eventually owning absolutely nothing. I mean, they don't quite spell that out in this document that they have here. They says, the undersigned organizations, policy leaders, and elected officials believe the idea of the federal government bailing out the states would be harmful to taxpayers. Federalism means we don't want the federal government telling the states what to do. And ultimately, the states themselves. Share your voice. Sign the ALEC letter. while economic conditions remain dire due to government-mandated business closures. Check this out. Look at how they phrase it. While economic conditions remain dire due to government-mandated business closures during the pandemic, federal lawmakers have already granted a general $150 billion COVID-19 relief fund, a $30 billion educational cost fund, and a $45 billion disaster relief fund, and more for the states and local government. We feel a federal bailout of state budgets would be counterproductive, rewarding states that have made poor financial decisions at the expense of those that have been fiscally responsible. Please, I want them to name me a fiscally responsible state, because the red states, California, up and until COVID had a surplus. New York, up until COVID, was doing just fine. But Kentucky, up until COVID, was taking money up the gazoo to pay their bills while they were claiming they were a low tax state. We had Kansas, who had to overthrow their Republican Party so that Kansas, a red state, elected a female governor. Think about this, a red state, because they screwed up their finances so bad, from education right back, so bad, using the Laffer curve. People look up Laffer curve. Okay, because the Laffer curve says as you drop taxes, there's an intersection point where you drop taxes, meaning you're increasing revenue. Makes absolutely no sense. I can prove that if you spend more money, you actually have more money, right? Because I can actually prove that from a numerical standpoint. Of course, you always have to put human behavior into that. But if I were to give tax breaks or stipends to low-income people, all that money gets spent. You know what spent money is? Economic activity. If I give all that money to rich people, you know what happens? They invest it. And where are the best places to invest? Not in America. And they invest it elsewhere. Net gain for Americans, nil. That is why when Trump gave his tax cut scam and he gave all that money to the corporations, they did one of two things. They went ahead and bought back their stocks, which increased the value of their stock, which means that was money given to their stockholders outright, or they invested in places that were no good for the average American people, so they saw nothing out of it, as all their other costs increased at a larger percentage than the little teeny tax break that some people got. And here we have Alec trying to do the same thing again. We have to be cognizant of what's going on here. Now, for instance, in recent years, North Carolina lawmakers have done the difficult but essential work to balance their budget while keeping spending in check. By doing so, they dramatically reduced the state's personal and corporate income tax rates, built up an empty rainy day fund of $1.17 billion, and accumulated a balance of $3.9 billion in the unemployment trust fund after paying more than $3 billion in debt. They forgot that California did all of that already, right? California had a surplus using progressive techniques, making sure that people weren't starved and making sure that they didn't have to live off of the dole, live off of the government, as these other red states that claim they've cleaned themselves up at all. So I really wanted to have him on, because what I was going to talk to him about is, if it's really that good, if Kentucky can really take care of itself, why is it that they have to take so much from the federal government? Why do they take more of their share if their economic policies are doing it right for them? It's not. And I guess that's the reason why they decided not to come on the show, because those were the questions that I was going to ask. And then I was going to go ahead and highlight all the Texas and other Congress people who are going home this week to their states and empty-handed as the people in their states begin to suffer and die from starvation and otherwise. That was my goal to do. Anyhow, time to go ahead and answer my people. Let's see. Michael Rudnin is listening from away. ¿Cómo está mi familia? From Dimitri OG. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Let's see who else. Norman Reynolds, welcome aboard. Lawrence Sims, welcome aboard. Ad Marley, welcome aboard. Ad Marley, I kind of saw Bob Marley. Do you like reggae? And JB, welcome aboard. Who else is here? Lee Grant, welcome aboard. And para ver, Bridge MCP, welcome aboard. If I missed you, just send me another text or another message here, and I'll call your name out. Mary, welcome aboard. I don't see Mary, but I saw that Bridge addressed Mary, so I figure I better say hi, Mary. Okay, here's the deal. Ignore the Trump. Reynolds says, ignore the Trump comments. Watch what he and McConnell does, or especially what they don't do or don't perform well. That's about everything, Norman. You know that. And Bruce Pollard says, not showing up for John Turner proves he is what? I don't know. You tell me, Bruce. Lawrence Sims says he was born with the gift of gab, and that is what allowed him to grab the low-educated. I mean, but he said it. You know what is so funny about Donald Trump? He actually said that. Donald Trump went on air and says, I love stupid people. And then the people who voted for him cheered. I'm like, what? You know, I mean, but hey, what can I say? His approach is understandable but faulty, according to Bruce Pollard. Bruce Pollard, second guess too late. Yes, you're right. Dimitri OG, Dole was a pitchman for Viagra. All right, Dimitri, you're bad. You're bad, Dimitri. Bruce, if he declared he would run, who would run? I don't know. Norman, it's not the president that has mishandled the pandemic. The Republican Party has. They all have. I agree. Let's see who else. The novel Wuhan virus is from China, not from Trump. It is from China, and Trump helped spread it with his incompetence. Michael Rudnin, we are going to be either run by Democrats or Republican country is what the founders feared would be the greatest political evil in our Constitution. I think that was Federalist Paper. Was that Federalist Paper 9, right? I read that one. I didn't read all the Federalist Papers, but I read quite a few of them. I remember that one when they were talking about Rudnin. I think they were talking about factions and all that kind of stuff in the Federalist Papers. And yeah, that is exactly right with what the government, the founders were talking about. Bruce says that China handle the virus might mean China has more capability than the U.S. Well, I don't think that's the case necessarily. I think they're just as, you know, I think they're both just as capable, but we decided not to do the right thing. We decided to have well, let's not go there. Trump is so far right, he's off the parliament spectrum. Okay. I don't know if Trump is anywhere though, Rudnin. Trump doesn't fit a party or am a rational human. I agree, Brij. I agree. All right, let's see who else. Lawrence Sims says, Don the Con is a name that was given to him for a reason. Yeah, because he's a con. Absolutely. Michael Rudnin, Egberto, read more polling results. Democrats are much more likely to support equality than Republicans. But, brother, that is what I said. That is what I said. In other words, Rudnin, I'm saying, when we vote, when we create policies, I'm talking about Democrats, progressives, we do the right thing. We go ahead and we support progressive policies that aid. But what I'm saying on a personal basis, on an individual basis, we have a lot to improve on ourselves. Yes, we are. You remember when I talked to you about fixing myself not only in the head, but in the heart, right? In the head, make sure that the laws are right and all that kind of stuff. In the heart, brings the other part. And that's what I'm talking about. We need to go over that some other time, the heart versus the head. I mean, it's everything really comes out of the head, but the part that have you that funny feeling in the heart is a different part of the head that controls that. Okay, let's see. So this is why he bowed out. Let me go scroll down. Normal Readiness says, disagree that Trump is a virus and he's not doing what the Republican Party wanted to do. Yes, he is obnoxious, but he has been saying out loud what most Republicans feel. He has normalized behavior that now others in the Republican Party are encouraged to show. Norman, you're repeating what I'm saying. He is a virus. He replicated himself. Yes, the others believed. I've always believed what he believed as well. But the difference is they didn't act it out. So in order for them to act it out, he had to infect them. And now they become the Trump folks who had no, no, you know what I mean. Now they could come out and do it. So I don't think we're disagreeing at all, Brother Reynolds. I think we're in full agreement. Let's see. Brij, really, what the hell does that mean? Brish, what are you talking about, my sister? I don't know what you mean. Okay, nope, I'm not at home. Yeah, okay, I remember that you said that. Lawrence Sims says, I'll talk about that after Lawrence because I'm not sure. Michael Rudnin, anyone in the time, Brish, still waiting for a response on Mark Trump's. I am not reading the book. It is, and the reason I'm going to tell you, you're going to say, Berto, really? It's too damn long. I work 16 hours a day, cutting videos, writing my book, doing all this other stuff. I don't have the capacity to read a book that long. It will take me probably 3 months because I could probably read 15, 20 pages at a time. The good thing about it is I have so many great people like you, Brish, who's read the book, and you're going to tell me things as I need to know in the book, what I hear on TV, all that good stuff. Because, you know, all of us kind of know how Trump is in the first place. We know he's a you know what. Okay, Mary was for Mary Trump, not Mark Trump. Okay. And just like we teach racism, children vote the way the parents do until they get a good education with regular people. You are so right. Okay. Now, oops. Wow, I'm running out of time. Okay, folks, it's time for me to go ahead and make my pitch. I am so sorry. Time caught up with me. Guilty as charged. Folks, I need you to please become members of Politics Done Right. How do you become a member of Politics Done Right? You can join us via Patreon by going to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can also become a member by going ahead and joining us via PayPal. That is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. You can always shop at I forgot Facebook. You can also join us on Facebook. We just got the ability to get subscriptions on Facebook. I need some subscribers on Facebook too. I have so few. I need subscribe. I have quite a bit on Patreon. I only have a little bit on Facebook. I need some Facebook subscribers. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. So we take subscriptions by PayPal, Facebook, and Patreon. Patreon is number 1. PayPal is number 2. Facebook is numero 4. And then, of course, we have our store. And how do you get there? You can get there by going to store.politicsdoneright.com. That is, I'm sorry, let's do it the other way. Go to politicsdoneright.com/store. politicsdoneright.com/store. And what can you get at our store? Check it out. Aquí tenemos. You can get our cup. You can get our books. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Learn all that you need to learn about our economic system in an easy-to-understand manner. Learn about how patents really mean there's no meritocracy. Look, there's a whole lot of stuff you can pick up in my books. And we're having one. I'm working feverishly to finish one that I put in between. Anyhow. So please go ahead and visit one of our links. Become supporters. We need you. We cannot do this without you. This is how we are going to make that change. And when we make that change, you can feel great that you are part of this entirety. Thank you. You have a wonderful weekend as well, Brige. You can rest assured that you're doing the right thing. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.